My name is Rula Jones, and I'm currently the gallery director of BlackRock Center for the Arts, as well as an artist, an art educator, a writer, and independent curator of contemporary art. Joining us today to discuss our current exhibition, Juxtapositions, is Katie Hecklinger. She's the Chief Program Officer at BlackRock Center for the Arts. She oversees all of BlackRock's arts programming, including the performing arts, the art galleries, and education. She joined the BlackRock team in November of 2019, serving as Director of Education. She has spent 22 years in the public school system in various roles and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from the University of Maryland, College Park, a Master of Science degree in educational technology leadership from GWU. And Mrs. Hecklinger is also a choral arts performer and sang with the Master Chorale of Washington and Symphonic Choral Ensemble in Washington, DC. Welcome, Katie. We also have Lorraine Spiegler. She is the founding artistic director of City Dance School and Conservatory, whose professional dance career of over 40 years as an educator, director, and choreographer embodies innovation in dance, education, and at the national and international levels. Her work in dance is deeply rooted in the global network reality of multicultural expression and perspectives through myth, legend, lore, language, and history. Ms. Spiegler actually holds 2 masters in dance history and arts management from American University, where she also served as a dance adjunct faculty in the Department of Performing Arts. In 2003, she garnered the American University Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Dance Field. She has been commissioned by the National Symphony Orchestra in partnership with the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts as the dance director choreographer for Music That Moves program. Her Brazilian American exchange work has been extensive, and she currently serves on the board for Rio de Janeiro, Maryland Partners of the Americas. Spiegler has also written papers on dance and is published in Dance Teacher magazine, highlighting her work in Cuba. Welcome.
Thank you.
Tory Cowles. Tory Cowles' paintings and sculptures are shown widely in the Mid-Atlantic region. She is represented and is president of Touchstone Gallery in Washington, DC. She shows her work in Studio 7 at the Torpedo Factory, Alexandria, Virginia, as well as in her studio at home. She was chosen to be the 2011 Torpedo Factory Artist of the Year by juror Harry Cooper, who is the head of modern and contemporary art at the National Gallery. She was given first prize by Charlotta Kotick, former head of modern and contemporary art at the Brooklyn Museum, in the show Art Over Time at the Brooklyn Waterfront Artists Coalition Gallery and Red Hook, Brooklyn in 2021. She is currently an abstract painting instructor at the Yellow Barn in Glen Echo Park, Maryland. She also has a background as a carpenter, woodworker, and stonewall builder. Welcome so much, Tory.
Thank you, Rula.
Juxtapositions is a site-specific and interactive installation. The exhibition features several components, a mechanic working model by Tory Cowles, who spent 3 years planning and creating work specifically for the K Gallery space, a studio visit with City Dance, in which current members of the Dance Conservatory met with Tory to discuss her work's philosophical and aesthetic aims, while also exploring various interactions with the medium. Once the work was installed, a closed performance and filming of the dancers interacting with the installation by a superb videographer who is not with us today, Shannon Brain. I hope that's how you say it, which was then later installed in the gallery. The last component yet to occur will be during the reception on the 20th of February, when dancers will not only interact with the installation, but also the spectators, at once transforming gallery attendees into participants. This component will also be filmed and added to the exhibition. Here we have a photograph of our initial visit to the studio. We can see, Katie, you are there, Lorraine and Tory. This is your studio at home, or is this at in Alexandria.
At home, yeah.
Wonderful. So my first question really is for Katie. So this is actually your brainchild, whereas obviously Tory, you've included dancers in your work before. How did you come up with the idea, Katie, of really including city dance with Tory Cowles exhibition?
Thank you, Rula. I describe it in the catalog as sort of serendipity. As we were reopening this September and I was getting to know Tory's work, it just so happened to be that I was getting to know the exhibition and really the artwork and the thought behind Tory's installation at the same time that I had the chance to see City Dance perform for the first time, the Conservatory, during BlackRock's open house. And I was in awe. So then it was, how do I bring these two together to meet? And luckily, Tory and Lorraine, we've been talking about this for months on how we bring these dancers together. The more I get to know Tory and really the thought about, and I'm sure we'll go into the meaning of the exhibition as we get further into the talk, but these young people at this time sort of experience this opportunity to interact with the art, I felt is, so important for these young dancers to have this opportunity. And it's come to be, and it's evolved, and it's grander than we had ever imagined. And so now I look forward to sharing it with the public.
Great, thank you. This is the video clip that we have of the dancers in Tory's studio. So let's just go ahead and play this before my next question. Thank you, Katie. Thank you. So my second question is for Lorraine. During the initial studio visit, how did the dancers, young as they are, react to the work? And also, do you think that they understood that in a way they themselves, their bodies, were moving component parts of the installation?
Well, first of all, it was, thank you, Rula. First of all, it was a really exciting moment to how it evolved a little bit. I want to answer your question and rewind a little bit.
Sure.
We had seen, talking about Katie and Tory and all of us coming together, and Katie and Tory, then the next process from where Katie was, I think, was to share the beautiful artwork of Tory visually. We were in a Zoom together and I was looking at this and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. And so by the time we got to Tory's studio, I think we were all excited, and the dancers approached everything more initially from a very inquisitive point of view. They were curious because suddenly they were immersed inside her studio, and there was a lot of colors and textures and fabric, and there was a lot of stimulation for young artists, visual stimulation all around them. I mean, we were surrounded, and Tory was talking about her philosophy. And I think what happened was a beautiful, normal sort of creative process where there was a moment of looking, thinking, absorbing. And then after this stimulation, visual and verbal, all of a sudden they were sort of given free rein to explore. And Tory would say, you can put on that beautiful, kind of shirt that I created. It's like a beautiful costume that you see Richard in there with black things hanging off of it. And, you know, Ella climbed into another white, gauzy kind of costume and was experimenting with that. Dancers started, you know, falling to the floor and finding all the objects she created. There were hoops and there were rocks and there was a beautiful tire on the wall that had been shredded and had other kinds of things falling out of it that the dancers were looking at. Abstract painting with all kinds of lines and shapes and, you know, kind of a necklaces that you could pull off of the painting and wear. Other things were going on, candle lighting. And it suddenly became for the dancers of just a beautiful moment of exploring her studio as people and dancers. And so I'm not sure that really answered your first question, but that was a great, great moment for them. And I do believe that in the process of what we did following that great initial moment, they suddenly began to find something inside that was uniquely them as dancers, as people, that related to the various exhibit pieces. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. It sounds like it was a magical experience, really.
Very, very magical.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So here is a quote that we have in the catalog from you, Tory. I apologize for that. As a self-described abstract artist, why did you decide to include the human form in your work? Have you ever depicted anything figurative previously?
A very long time ago, I painted representationally. And in fact, I didn't know very much about abstract art. This was probably, I don't know, 35 years ago. And a friend of mine wanted to take an abstract class. I didn't really know much about abstract, and she didn't want to take it by herself. So I agreed to take it with her. And it was with a wonderful teacher, Helen Corning. She was a wonderful abstract instructor. And I immediately fell in love with abstract because I realized that it dealt exactly with what most interested me. I really wasn't that interested in making something look like a person or a flower or landscape. I really was interested in how colors and shapes and textures interact and change each other and just move you for some strange reason. And so I just fell in love with abstract painting.
Wonderful. So, and then when did you decide to start going from like abstract painting to, you know, sort of installation or sculptural assemblages, and then starting to include the human form so that is in fact interactive?
I just kind of got a little bored with abstract painting, and I had been a carpenter and a woodworker, so I liked making things, and so I started doing more sculptural things. And this painting here is 5 feet by 6 feet. I like working big in all situations, and they just kept getting bigger and bigger, and it turned into installations rather than just sculptures. And I've always loved. I'm blanking on the name of the artist that I love now, but
That's okay.
who did these wonderful, what he called, they were partly sculpture, partly paintings. And
Rauschenberg? Is it Rauschenberg?
Rauschenberg, right. Sorry, thank you. And Rauschenberg got involved with dancers and contemporary music and brought in dancers to his work. So I was aware of that possible combination, and I loved Rauschenberg's work. And the thing is that movement is really important, whether you're talking about an abstract painting or whether you're talking about a sculpture, and the possibility of things actually moving in an installation was very exciting to me, to be able to add real movement into my work. And part of that could be done with fans that blew fabrics and you know, waves of colors that moved across a wall. But really, what would be most exciting is that if people could interact with it. And since anytime you add a color to an abstract painting, it changes how you see the painting. Anytime you add a person to an installation, it changes the installation. So people that interact, whether it's a dancer or a visitor, with the installation, become part of the composition, part of the choreography. They change it. And to me, that was very exciting. They add their own interpretation and they participate. And I think that that's good for the soul. And it's really good for me as an artist to see that happening.
Absolutely. So we actually do have a clip. It's part of the documentary film that is being created of you talking, and I'd like to play that right now, just because it's really quite beautiful.
Art, I think, is an expression of deeply held truths. And the more you can express those truths, the more you can dare express them, I think the more people respond to them, the more powerful it is. And so these are my truths. I hope that they resonate with you, but I know that for some people they aren't going to. And I think as artists, we have to accept that not everybody is going to respond to what we do, what our truths are.
So, Tory, if you could expand a little bit more on what you consider to be your deeply held truths and how this is presented aesthetically in your work. For example, well, about, yes, the sort of contrast of media.
I want to say first that I think art is magic.
Okay.
Say that with a straight face. I really believe that. I think that when you listen to Tchaikovsky's Concerto No. 1 or Janis Joplin, or you watch one of Lorraine's dancers perform their solo dance that they've choreographed, that Lorraine has choreographed with them, or you look at a really amazing abstract painting, there's something that happens to you as an observer. It resonates inside. It kind of peels you open and moves you and changes you, I think. And that's magical. They're not actually touching you, and people respond to that all across the world. I mean, it's a language that everybody, I think, responds to. So when I talk about my truths growing up in Vermont, that, the gritty, hard, making a living off the soil truths of, a Vermont countryside, or we have a farm in Frederick County. That grittiness, I'm very close to it. I'm moved by it. And the materials that I use in my sculptures are old choreographed roofing, corrugated roofing, chicken wire, chain link fencing, things that have been worked on by the weather and the soil and time that have, have played a real role in protecting animals or equipment from the elements. That those things are powerful to me. And I also find them beautiful. I find them beautiful both in and of themselves, and also what they represent in terms of just, the challenges in life. And those challenges are hard, but they also make us strong. They make us decide who we are. And so that, I think, I put that in my art because I find them very powerful. But, I also grew up in a household with an architect father and a mother who was a photographer and a sculptor. And there was a lot of beauty in my family, a lot in my background. And that beauty was, a lot of it was from man-made things, beautiful fabrics or old paintings, beautiful old music. So in this installation, I think, tries to combine those two aspects of some of the most moving parts of my life, the grittiness and the roughness. And I've been a carpenter, there's a lot of me that really is that. And then the more refined things are there too. And I'm equally moved by those. And so when you bring the two together, what happens is the gritty, rough strength of these hardworking materials lend a kind of strength and dignity and grittiness to those beautiful fabrics that are more sophisticated and elegant. And those elegant fabrics add a sophistication to the gritty materials. All of a sudden you put that brocade next to the corrugated roofing, and all of a sudden the patina on the roofing, you all of a sudden see as, wow, this is really layered and sophisticated, subtle and beautiful. So they talk to each other, the meanings talk to each other. And so I think that's kind of—
Art, I think, is an expression of deeply held truth.
I beg, sorry.
That's okay. I think that's basically, that my truths are sort of a combination of those two things, and I tried to bring them together in this installation.
Thank you. It's so beautiful, really. Your philosophy of that, you know, everything is beautiful, even the hardships, and therefore even those materials that are considered not aesthetically pleasing. It's really, it's quite beautiful. So I just wanted to talk to Lorraine and Tory, specifically to both of you in your collaboration, and just bring in a little bit of art history into it. So choreographers and dancers have been collaborating with artists to create stage performances, props, costuming that helps bring their performances to life. Among some of these better known creative partnerships were those pioneered by Sergei Diaghilev, the founder and director of the Paris-based Ballet Russe, who commissioned work from artists like Pablo Picasso and Henri Matisse. The revolutionary modern dancer and choreographer, Martha Graham, was also known not only for her own work, but also for her beautiful collaborations with some of the leading artists of her time, including the renowned Isamu Noguchi. And so I just brought a little bit of images here. So we can see that very much, I think, artists and dancers were collaborating in the sense that they were going to create a performance that had been written by someone else. This is Martha Graham with Isamu Noguchi. And I just, think that, this exhibition is continuing such a great legacy of collaborations between dancers and visual artists, to the point, of course, we know in modern art that that line has really been decimated. But I just wanted to ask you both, who are some of your artistic, as well as, from both the dance world, as well as the visual arts world, who are some of your influences?
Before we answer that, could we go back to
Sure.
what you said and make a link? Because
yes,
I think that absolutely dance and visual arts, I mean, all artists have always worked together, been inspired by each other,
yes.
Find new hope, energy, enthusiasm, re-energize. I mean, that process is an important process and has been probably since mankind ever became anything on the planet, where people are working together and sharing in this invisible power, this magical power that Tory's talking about, this power of the arts. The examples you have here are examples from more recent history, where choreographers and designers and musicians come together. A more recent, so along these lines, a lot of this work is, if you go back to this work, and I don't know, we're talking about the Cubist period, or we're talking about how the ideas came together very often prior to this century, very often. That work was to serve a production, where dance would be on a proscenium, in a proscenium environment, more or less on the stage and so on. More recently, when you're asking about inspiration of artists, you're asking about Rauschenberg, you're maybe asking about Merce Cunningham or Trish Brown, or these other people who have been more recently connected to the history that we have going now. Then you're talking about a coming together, just like then, very conceptually, but almost not towards a proscenium outlook, towards installation work, towards just process for development of artwork that, could be theater in the round, could be an installation outside, could be Tory's installation inside. It could be so many things. And so you're right. I just wanted to touch on the fact that that has exploded. What you're talking about historically here has exploded or circled around again to be very much about process. And so the work that Tory and I are doing together, for me, would be, for example, Tory and I were talking this morning briefly before this about a dance artist who influenced me because she wrote, and actually who influenced this project very much is Ati Vandenberg. She was one of my first directors, and I became a first director under her at a very young age, like 25 or something like that. And she had lived through, you know, she had been in Essen, Germany during the Nazi period, and had, you know, and had fled to Dartington Hall, England, to follow a talented choreographer by the name of Kurt Joost, who then created a beautiful piece called The Green Table, based on the problems of war, the opportunists, the militaristic, the people who fall by the wayside, and so on, that then Joffrey Ballet did. The reason I bring it up is because I was sharing with Tory this morning that my process with the kids that are working, and these young dancers that are working with the installation with Tory, is more along the lines of inner dance. Sort of that what Tory is talking about is how the dancers come into the gallery, interact. First they're in a studio, then they're in the gallery, they're interacting. It goes back to what you were asking before. They're interacting and becoming part of her installation. So the pictures that you see, the moments that you see in the gallery, and that later after February 20, we will see in their performance in the gallery and interaction with adults who just come in, participants, they're viewing the installation, they're viewing the work. That interaction is really a process oriented to having the dancers interact more than just having them wear the beautiful things that she's worn. They're like interacting. They're interacting with the wall, with the positive and negative space, with hoops that are hanging, with fabric that's flying around, and they're inside the fabric and underneath it and almost climbing on the walls. And so this has been just for us, very special process. And yes, it does follow in line. I hope that answered, like, I've been inspired by, there's so many talented artists, visual artists and dancers. The woman that I mentioned, Ati Vandenberg, she was also a visual artist, and she had been married to Fritz Henley, who was a famous photographer in the Caribbean. And so all of that imagery, you know, that feeds us all. And so in this case, I felt that we and the dancers were very fed by Tory's, you know, the here and now of the interaction with Tory. Of course, we all carry what has come before us. But I feel like those are some influences. And then Tory's work has been a real sort of here and now influence with the conservatory dancers about where we are now in process with this inner dance and creation. Process leads to beautiful product, that kind of philosophy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think what's interesting, though, I would just point out that a lot of these examples that I'm showing, you almost feel like that the artist is going into sort of the stage, whereas in this example, you know, in Juxtapositions, you have sort of the dancers coming into the installation. It's like would you agree with that? Or yeah. So Tory, if you'd like to talk a little bit about you know, I mean, clearly, you know, visual artists and dancers, as well as, you know, all the other disciplines, let's be going, right? All the other arts disciplines, philosophers, writers, musicians, etc. Like we were saying, Merce Cunningham. And so can you talk a little bit about your influences do you have anybody besides Robert Rauschenberg that sort of influenced you? Do you have any, may I ask, female artists that have influenced you or at all? Or
my memory is really bad. But there's a couple, they aren't female, but they're powerful to me lately, you know, and they keep changing. I keep getting new people that influence me, but two that have been influencing me lately is an African man called Anatsui.
Okay, yeah.
And he makes the most amazing, huge tapestries out of trash. That in his village in Africa, all the villagers are involved in collecting the trash and making these amazing things. And some of them you look through, they're transparent. Others are, they're sort of made with metal that is glittery and just looks so elegant. And then you get close and you see that they're made out of bottle caps and stuff. And he hangs them off of buildings in Venice, crumbling buildings with these shimmering, 50 feet tall fabrics that he's made out of trash hanging off these buildings. And you see that against the architecture and the old buildings. They're just absolutely stunning. And I love the way he's working with the whole village. And it's just so inspiring to me. Another person is an artist called J.R. He's a French artist. He's a photographer and a movie maker. He did a series called Women Are Heroes. And he took pictures of women all across the world, their faces. And he then enlarged these faces, hugely, so that and then he printed them on paper, and then he plastered these faces, for instance, in Rio de Janeiro, on houses in the slums of Rio de Janeiro. And they were the eyes of women from that slum. And in this video, this film that he made, you follow him through all of these passages to these women's homes. And it's clearly a slum, but then you follow these passages and you come into their living room and you see that the women have made these homes with nothing, just made them so welcoming. And he talks about women in the world being abused and used and all that stuff. But then he says, women are heroes. Look what they're doing. Look what they're providing for their families and their communities. And so these are all eyes of women. And he plasters them on these buildings so that then you see that slum from afar with these faces on all of these buildings, huge faces taking up a whole wall. And then you get back a little further and there's a hillside. And then he's put the bottom of the face on the hillside, and then a train comes along. And then the eyes are on the train cars. And then the train lines up with the fabric on the hillside, and you see the whole face, the eyes on the train cars, and then the bottom of the face. I mean, his actually absolutely amazing videos. There's another one of Ellis Island, and Robert De Niro is the actor, and he's taken pictures from Ellis Island, and he's pasted them on the walls of Ellis Island. And Robert De Niro, whose family went through Ellis Island, takes you through Ellis Island with these ghosts on the walls of Ellis Island. It's just incredible. And Lorraine, I'm sure you've probably seen it. He's also done one with New York City Ballet in the slums of Paris, where he comes from. And there's a thunderstorm, and there's a beautiful ballerina who dances with a man from the slum, who's doing Black dancing, and it's these two cultures coming together in this slum with the thunderstorms going and the most beautiful ballet, and they all line up at the end, and they all have these sort of white and black, and you see again two eyes. And he just thought that eyes don't lie, that you see the soul through the eyes. So, but I mean, this is a guy that changes the world through his work. I mean, it's so inspiring to me. It's a little daunting, because you look at your work and you say, you can't compare yourself too much, but you have to do what you can do. But you hope that, just because art is magical, and you hope that it has an impact, it opens up people sort of, art sort of takes away layers and it opens people up to the world, I think. And I think that's what we all try to do, the best we can do in that respect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. So I have up on the screen a beautiful picture of you three. This is when you guys were filming, actually, for the first time in the K Gallery. So the dancers, just to let everybody know, the dancers went to Tory's studio and they were able to interact with the work. But once it was installed, it was actually filmed as well, and it was performed. It was a closed performance so that it could be filmed properly. So, I mean, just gorgeous. So my next question really is for Katie. It must have been so satisfying, really, to watch this just magical performance evolve. Because once again, you know, as I mentioned, this was really your idea to sort of just bring these two wonderful artists together. And you were present at the studio visit and you were present at the private filming. Was there anything that surprised you about doing this collaboration?
The whole experience honestly has been a bit of a surprise, because you don't know what to expect when you walk into sort of this creative endeavor that's never been done before. You know, listening to Tory speak about how art is magical, I sort of feel the same way about young people and the process of learning. And their response to Tory's art was a surprise. You know, one young gentleman said in the studio that that painting, that's how I sort of feel inside. And they were able to relate and interact with elements of the exhibition off the bat. And I often think, you know, the way Tory has described this particular exhibition, with the grittiness in life being coupled with so many beautiful things, often it takes us decades to figure this out, that in life's darkest moments, there is profound beauty. And I wonder, as these young people, these just exquisitely talented young dancers, are discovering that a little bit earlier than the rest of us. So I really have been moved, and I'm already becoming so attached to Tory's work and the dancers. So that has been a surprise, just how emotional the process has been for me, as sort of, you know, the sandwich, if you will, bringing these two art forms together to see what happens and what can be created. So that has been a surprise for me, is not knowing what partnership, and how an idea which started with, let's see how these dancers interact with the space, and the work that has evolved, and how complex it's been, how we've been able to dodge Omicron like we have. You know, nothing is stopping us now. And the fact that it's caught on film through Shannon's work makes it timeless. And so that it is definitely a highlight, something that I'll sort of hold close for years to come.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to share this small clip. It is of the dancers filming in the K Gallery. Go ahead and share that. So this just is just a film still. I just wanted to, so as mentioned earlier, the final component, which has not occurred yet, so sort of a happening, if you will, it's in between a performance and, you know, an exhibition. The final component of the exhibit will occur during the closed reception. I believe it is closed at this point, on the 20th of February. And I just wanted to ask you all, and I'm going to bring in some more art history into this, sorry. The renowned Dadaist Marcel Duchamp wrote, "All in all, the creative act is not performed by the artist alone. The spectator brings the work in contact with the external world by deciphering and interpreting its inner qualifications, and thus adds his contribution to the creative act." And in your final component, the dancers will in fact be interacting not just with the art installation, but with the attendees as well, making the attendees themselves part of the art. So I just, you know, think that that is really, brilliant. It's just like, oh, I'm definitely, Tory, you're just like, I'm definitely going to throw this into the public realm. The public's participation is critical to the overall work. Anybody would like to expand upon that? The participation of the audience. Don't have to.
I'm interested. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Katie, why don't you talk and then maybe I can jump in after.
Okay.
So in listening to the creative process between Tory and Lorraine, it's been interesting to discuss just elements. Tory shared earlier what happens when you add a different color. Lorraine spoke earlier about what happens when you add a costume and how that changes the artwork. And now we're going to be adding an audience. So from a spectator point of view, I'm eager to see how the audience influences what that moment will look like, even though the exhibition, which is tremendously interactive, will sort of be received differently by those who are spectating in the 3 iterations that we're doing it. So that's going to be really interesting to me, that now that the audience is becoming a part of the exhibition, how those 3 experiences will be interpreted differently, how an audience member might be standing in a different place throughout the exhibition, the movement, how the choreographer changes, the interpretation based on someone that's making eye contact with them. There are all sorts of exciting things that are going to happen that evening.
It is very exciting. So anybody else, Lorraine, Tory, about this last component, which is the reception? It's not the last, because we have the video right for posterity, so no need to become sad. But if you'd like to just sort of elaborate about this sort of final component, if you will.
Because I work so closly with the dancers, and because they know there'll be a musical element as well, that the as people are in the gallery experiencing the interaction, the juxtaposition between the dancers and the installation, and there'll be sound in there as well. We're picking the sound, making that final selection. And the dancers themselves, it's interesting. I think it would be, if we could ask the participants, the people that are wandering through what they see, all the different lenses, everybody's so uniquely seeing something different from one perspective or another. As a dance educator, I'm super interested to see how the dancers respond, react, interact, because they know part of our process is that they know that in the moment, if somebody's near them, something could change. They could actually pass somebody and change their movement slightly. It's not set in stone.
Right,
so
it's improv.
It's a structure. It's a structure allowing interaction, and like Tory was saying, it's an incredible communication. So if somebody gets close and they pass and their hand moves across their face as they turn their focus to something that's a beautiful piece of fabric or a shape or something on the wall. It's sort of the way we see mellow here, and entwined in the installation, or looking at the candles here. I think that the dancers themselves, for me as a dance educator, I love the whole process, and I'm also super interested in seeing how they then adjust and respond to the other element of having an audience members in with them. That's all I'm saying, because I think every time the three sessions that we've scheduled, I think each of them will be slightly different based on the public. That's all I really want to say.
Yeah. So I wanted to say something about the public, because I sincerely believe, I love bringing the public in and have them interact, because I want them to be part of the creativity, part of the process, because I think everybody that loves art is an artist, or has that in their lives in different ways. And to bring them into the process, I want them to feel part of it, and I want them to feel empowered by it, and I want them to take it home with them and make it part of their lives, whether it's, fixing up their living room or making a wonderful dinner party or something. And so I like that aspect of bringing the visitors in. I really want to fully include them in participation and enjoyment, and so it's a two-way street.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And so I have one a final question for everyone. It's just, first I would just mention as new gallery director of BlackRock Center for the Arts, it's just been such a wonderful experience working with all three of you. One of the reasons why I got into curating is because I wanted to create a more equitable sort of foundation for opportunities for artists in the visual arts. The National Museum of Women in the Arts, which is the only art museum that is dedicated solely to women, which is actually undergoing a renovation right now, has stated that in an analysis of all United States art museums, their collections are 87% male and 85% white. And so I was wondering, working with the three of you, what has your sex been an issue, or have you had to overcome something working in the arts or in Katie in education as well, because it really does permeate all fields. Has there been an experience that you have had to overcome to be a visual artist, or to be the artistic director, to found a conservatory and so forth, and Katie, of course, to be a mother and also an educator? So it's open to anybody who'd like to respond, and you don't have to. It's if you'd like to.
I think it's interesting to me that if art is an expression of deeply held truths, and what percentage did you say were in the museum?
87%.
87%.
All museums.
To me, that means that, I mean, women have a different perspective. They have a different experience of the world. And I think their voices should be, or their perspectives or their deeply held truths need to be shared more with the world. I think the world would be better off for that. I don't know if I've been hindered by being a woman or not. I'm awfully glad I'm a woman.
Same way. And Lorraine, though, you've done a lot of really wonderful work in multiculturalism, sort of using art as a way of multicultural understanding, particularly in South America. Can you talk a little bit or expand a little bit more about that?
Just dance and art has always been a central theme for me. Mm-hmm. And I think I was fortunate to be, one thing I will say, what immediately comes to mind when you ask that question is I immediately think of mentors and who's mentored me. And there have been three very important women, but there have been many important women and many important men in my life, including my dad, who was a scientist, but would play classical music and music actually from around the world, from China. And, we heard everything in our living room while he was painting, and we were reading poetry. And so, but what I want to go back to was there have been about three important women mentors at different points in my life. One of them was Mary Day, the founding director of Washington Ballet. Another one is Dr. Naima Prevost, who's a very noted dance historian, and Ati Vandenberg. I mean, there have been more, but those three were very critical at different points. And so I don't know. I know that the fact is there are not very many women artistic directors. There are a lot of women in the arts, but there are not so many artistic directors, although it's kind of on the rise now. Now you hear more and more about this. But I do feel that the impact of mentorship from other women who are artists and who feel strongly about their work is certainly influenced me and guided me along the way. I will say that, and I'm not really, I haven't really dug into the other part of the question. I need to more. I think what happens when you're busy focused in the art, you're always just doing it and plowing, you're doing it and plowing forward. I mean, it's like this project, I'm infinitely grateful to everybody in this screen today. I'm infinitely grateful to City Dance. City Dance is really predominantly a female-run organization, actually, in the arts when I think about it. And but I feel like that we have this kind of glue that no matter what goes on, even during COVID, we're very dedicated. We believe in it. We're going to get in the studio. We're going to get into the gallery. We're going to keep teaching. We're going to keep producing and thinking about this magical thing called art that communicates beyond language, beyond, nationalities or culturally specific languages. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Do you have anything to add?
Sure. I see both the arts and education as an equity gap and a lack of access interrupter. And I feel obligated, in my years in public education, I saw myself as an equity warrior with just obvious institutional differences. Not everyone, even in our area, has access to the same level high quality education, even though they might be living in the same zip code. And I feel that the arts not only are a bridge to understanding each other, but I also feel that, because they are magical and they enlighten, they instill a curiosity that really, as Lorraine described, is boundless. It's almost like your cape. And if we indeed can be successful in providing an education and arts access to all, we are moving toward a more equitable world where we understand each other a little bit better.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go ahead and conclude. I'd like to, before we conclude, if there are any questions from any of the attendees, this is your opportunity to ask them. It's okay. We did cover quite a bit. So. Okay. Can we see this again? Yes. This is a recorded event. I will be editing it, and I will go ahead and post a link to our YouTube channel. That link will probably be available on our website on the arts page, the exhibitions page. So thank you so much, Kristen Morrison. Anybody else?
I'd like to say it's really been an honor to work with BlackRock and with Lorraine. I'm just so grateful to you guys and really thrilled to be able to work with you.
Yeah, and I honestly, as a gallery director, I just also feel the same way. Such a great team. This is such an exciting project. And of course, we're very much looking forward to the February 20th reception, and just to see how that final interaction is, as well as the final documentary film. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Just such a beautiful presence you have and talk, and Katie, it's just so wonderful to work with you on every single day. Such a bright presence. And Tory, I mean, just your beautiful exhibition it's in terms of concept as well as your presence, it's just been really wonderful. So thank you all so much. And Katie and Tory, if you'd like to say some final words, that would be great.
Well, perhaps Rula share when folks can get. Right now, the reception RSVP is closed because it's so popular. Hopefully in the coming days, we'll have more availability as people confirm their reservation. As Lorraine shared, there will be 3 opportunities on the evening of the 20th to see the dancers and the audience interact. And hopefully we'll have more opportunities and spaces available in the days to come as people confirm. So, but perhaps you could share, Rula, you know, we want you to come into the space and interact and move and enjoy.
Yeah, there is a wonderful video actually up there, you know, right now, so that you can actually, you know, go in and see the first component of the video, which is just absolutely beautiful, which you have also seen here during our artist talk. Our second component is also going to be added. You know, it's going to be, you know, wonderful just to even stop by. You don't have to come to the actual performance to really get an understanding of the totality of the aesthetic and philosophy of the exhibition. So
the final dates that the exhibition is in the space, Rula, so everyone knows.
Let's go back here. That is, I believe, February 23rd. So you do want to, yeah, so you do want to, actually, let's go all the way back, just double check that. Please do make sure that you pop by during normal business hours. And we do have special gallery hours on the weekend. That is on our website. So yeah, we look forward to having you. Please do come by BlackRock. And Tory, you'd like to add something?
Yes, I would like to say that if you know my name, Tory Cowles, Tory Cowles at Comcast.net. If you'd like to come and see the space when it's, if you haven't signed up for the show or you want to come when there are fewer people there, I'd be happy to meet you there and show you around. So
that's special.
Just give me an email at Tory Cowles at Comcast.net and I'd be happy to meet you there.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, well, thank you all so much. This has been really a fantastic talk. Just really, really thrilling. So I'm going to go ahead and close it down. Have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rula.